Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
Alright people, this Saturday, Triple G, Ryota Murata, unification fight at middleweight. Long awaited fight. It seems like this fight's been teased and talked about. Even, well, obviously it was announced to happen back in December, but even prior to that, I remember going as far back as 2018. Not so much 20, more so 2018 was when this kind of fight was being talked about. Pretty much after, I think actually even before he fought Canelo for the second time, Triple G. I think it was after Canelo and the tainted beef situation came about. There was talk of Murata. And Murata's always been kind of, mentioning Golovkin. More so mentioning Triple G, to be honest with you. There's always been this kind of, it's never really, up until recently, it never really kind of hit the surface, if you know what I mean. It was always kind of there, talk about Murata, Triple G, Murata, but it's really now we're finally getting there. Obviously, this fight was meant to happen in December. The Holocaust, that pushed it back, so we are getting it now. Now, this Saturday, I'm going to try and get a watch-along in with it. From what I've looked at, it looks like we're looking at around about noon fight time. In around, that depends on the undercard, but we're looking at around noon UK and Ireland time. So I'm open, like if I'm not doing anything Saturday morning, I will definitely, and I normally go gym on Saturday morning, but I'll happily take the day off just to watch this fight, or get up early and do it. So watch along is watch the space. But I want to talk about this fight. I want to give my pick on this fight. I want to kind of talk about both fighters' strengths and how I think this fight's going to go. And I'm going to be frank, right? This is an interesting fight because I genuinely, really, I can't accurately say how I really think it's going to go because there's so many variables you got to talk about. Had this had been in 2018, my pick would be Triple G by mid-round stoppage. That would be my pick had it happened 2018, 2017, Triple G mid-round stoppage. Murata has a lot of pedigree. He was an Olympic gold medalist. He does have 2 defeats as a pro. Let it be said, right, the Rob Brandt loss was his first ever fight in America. It was actually with Top Rank. I think he was with Top Rank for a while. And he looked like a fish out of water in that fight. It's the best way to describe it. This is a guy who is, like, I'm talking Anthony Joshua levels of stardom in his native Japan. Like, Murata is huge. Like, getting Naoya Inoue out of the way, that's how big he is. And Naoya Inoue is a big star over there, but this guy is night and day. He's huge over there. And he'd fought all his fights in Japan prior to that. He'd always look comfy at home, and he just looked like a fish out of water. He never got going in that fight. He was soundly beaten by Rob Brandt. And then the rematch happened in Japan, and he got rid of him in 2 rounds. So, he was able to just kind of get the home field advantage. He was able to get back into it, and he was able to do the job in 2 rounds. There was things in that fight I want to talk about, which is kind of things I want to touch on with regards to Murata in his kind of skill set and what I think he'll implement against Triple G. I'll talk about that now in a wee bit. And obviously his other loss prior to that was I believe it was a split decision loss to Hassan and Dam. Now that was a BS decision. That was a robbery, right? And actually, I'm telling you now, if you've never seen Hassan and Dam versus Murata 1, go and watch it, right? It is right up there. It will give Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall a run for its money in terms of robberies. That's how bad it was. So bad that you had, what's his name? Is it Mendoza? Gilberto Mendoza, the president of the WBA, because that was actually for Murata's, well, actually I think it was a vacant title at the time, for a WBA regular strap. And the WBA president even said, this decision is complete. Like, Hassan and Dam was the champion, and you have the president saying this can't happen. The wrong guy won. So they had the rematch, and Murata made sure the second time. I think he stopped them in 6 or 7 rounds. So both losses avenged. One of them really shouldn't have been a loss. One of them was not a loss. It was just a complete robbery. I just go back and watch it. It was a horrible fight. It was a horrible decision, I should say. Murata versus Hassan and Dam 1. It's right up there. Really is right up there. One of the worst you'll see. So that's Murata. Now, Triple G coming into this fight will have been out of the ring since December 2020. reasonable length of time, was inactive all of 2021. As I said, would have fought in 2021, but you know what? And obviously Murata, even longer. December 2019. So over 2 years, 2.5 years. Triple G, again, he gets into the ring on fight night, will be 40 years old. Where did the time go? I mean, it's crazy to think that he's still, and at the end of the day, like, he is still a very, very, very good operator, or at least he was in the Sarameta fight. I always struggle with his name. I think I have it nailed down now. In that fight, he looked very good. He looked a bit like the Triple G of old. You know, I think a large part of it did come down to the fact that Sarameta is a limited fighter. He has no punching power at all to speak of. I think that was a mandatory as well with the IBF. And Triple G just looked like his old self in there. In terms of timing, in terms of his shot selection, in terms of punching power. He looked like his old self in there. But boxing, especially when you get to this age, it can be a funny old one. It can be a funny old game like that. In a sense of, you could have a great performance your last fight and then age overnight. Like, literally, you wouldn't notice from one fight to another that's the same fighter. He looked good there, and fast forward a year, he's not fought since, he looks completely different. You know, they say you're only as good as your last fight. But when you get to this kind of advanced age in the career, and Triple G, you know, he's been in some hard fights in his career, make no mistake about that, you do wonder. Having said that, you look at Murata on the polar opposite end of the spectrum, in the sense that he's 36, but he spent a lot of time as an amateur. Could he have peaked there? Possibly. At the end of the day, he's missed 2.5 years of his career. How do we not know that those last 2 years could have been the last of Murata's peak? At the end of the day, 2019 was the last time this guy set foot in a competitive boxing ring, in a competitive professional paid fight. So how is he going to look? We had something similar with Kell Brook and Amir Khan a couple of weeks ago, in a sense of, well, we saw Kell Brook, and Kell Brook didn't look good in his fight prior to that, but we saw Kell Brook not looking particularly, you know, amazing against Terence Crawford in defeat. Looked pretty bad, actually, and that was a year removed. Whereas Amir Khan, we didn't know, because he'd been out of the ring for so long. It turned out on fight night, Brook had enough left. Khan was just a complete shell of himself. Could we see something similar in this fight? If you look at some of the fights Triple G's been in and how the wins have aged, obviously you look at the Derevchenko fight, winning there against Charlo done a better job. Triple G really struggled in that fight. You know, a lot of people felt he lost it. He fought against Steve Rolls the fight before that. That was his comeback fight after the Canelo loss, and he didn't look particularly good. Yes, he got the stoppage in, but he looked a bit, he just, defense was off, everything was kind of off at Triple G apart from the punching power. Looking at Rolls' last performance against Berlanga, you know, and that was at super middleweight, not middleweight, you would turn around and say, well, actually, even a Triple G not firing on all cylinders, you know, and far from it he was that night, realistically, he was far from firing on all cylinders that night, he was still able to do a much better job than Berlanga, night and day. So, Triple G, you underestimate Matt Peril. I love Triple G as a fighter. I've loved watching him for many years now. I mean, Jesus, how many years have I watched Triple G? It's got to be pushing 10 years, and never ceases to impress me, never ceases to entertain me. In this fight, as is what I said, I can't accurately say how I think it's going to go, because there's so many variables you got to talk about. As I said at the start of the video, if it had been the Triple G of 2018 against the Murata of 2018, Triple G mid-round stoppage. Murata has some strengths, but he also has weaknesses, and some of his weaknesses are weaknesses you don't want to have against someone like Triple G. Alright? His punch selection, it's not bad. Murata, you can overwhelm Triple G, and I think that's something that Murata would look to do. He's not particularly sneaky with how he sets his shots up. For example, you look at the way, and I'm using Canelo as an example, but Canelo was a very good fighter. But Canelo has ways of disguising his left hooks. So when Canelo will be jabbing, and he could also hook off the hook. But what he'd also do, he did this very well. If you go back and look at the Triple G rematch, in the second round, he lands a beautiful left hook on Triple G, bang on the side of the chin. Triple G is a crazy chin, just took it. But what Canelo did was he set that up by kind of dipping his shoulder down and making Triple G think he was going to throw a body shot, and actually leading to the body. And after it kind of goes to about halfway, he shifts the trajectory on the punch, and it goes up. So Triple G is expecting the body shot, and he's getting the hook to the head. Murata's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. He's not going to set it up that way. His left hook is not particularly special. The main power punch for him is the right hand. I believe that was what you hurt Rob Brandt with. But Rob Brandt, he hurt him badly in there. If he hurt him in the first round, took him out in the second round. But Brandt was able to absorb, yes, the referee was right to stop it when he did. But for all the shots that Murata was hitting him with, Brandt was able to stay on his feet for the most part. So you do wonder, is this guy more a kind of guy who's going to get you out of there with volume as opposed to get you out of there with brute force? In which case, Triple G, he may decide to go kind of the Willie Monroe route, in which is the case of, this guy's got nothing. Yes, he's working a lot, he's throwing a lot of shots, but he's not hurting me, and I can hurt him. And I can hit him, I can land on him, he's not a hard target, because Murata isn't exactly the hardest guy to, he's harder probably to miss than he is to, he is to hit. He's shown a decent enough chin in his career, but saying that, the guys he's been fighting would not have the heavy-handedness of a Triple G. Triple G has just that. If Canelo's hitting you at 60%, he can turn it up to 90-95 like that. Triple G doesn't turn it up to 90-95. It's always kind of in around 80% punching power, if you know what I mean, if you get me. He will just break you down with the heavy-handedness of his shots, with just the sheer thudding power, as opposed to just kind of, oh, I'm okay, boom, your lights are out. It's not really like that. It's more with just the thudding explode. It's not really explosive, but it's more just the thudding power of Triple G. You don't want to be taking too many of them shots. And I reckon Murata may have success early on against Triple G, who may struggle a bit with his timing. But I think what will happen is Triple G may look to try and establish the jab. I think he may end up at some stage feeling some Murata shots in a sense of, he might feel that this guy has nothing to really bother me with. And I think we may see Triple G then go into his old kind of pressure fighter style, where it's just cutting the ring off effectively. Okay, if I take a few shots on the way in, I'll take them, but I can hurt this guy. And I think it's going to be something like that. Murata will know Triple G, good chin, but the older you get and the more time out of the ring, even a chin as good as the great Triple G, it can regress. And you may start seeing him get hurt by guys who, 4 years ago, he would have looked at that and thought, ha 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 ha, is that all you got? Whereas maybe now it's a case of, oh, I felt that, that's weird. I might be a bit caught. I might take my chance. Why not take my chances against this guy? You never know. That can happen. One thing Murata's going to want to target, if he's seen the Derevchenko fight, of course, Triple G's body. Noticeably, a few times against Derevchenko, he was hurt to the body. Murata, be a very wise man to go downstairs, because if Triple G, bear this in mind, right? Triple G's been making middleweight now his whole career. I thought going into the Canelo rematch, he was starting to look a bit drained. He was starting to look a bit tight at the weight. He's 40 years old now. He's been out of the ring for over a year. Alright, it can't have got any easier in the immediate time for him to have made weight. So if he is coming into this fight, maybe a little bit drained, potentially, and he has a bit of vulnerability to the body, a bit, Murata will be wise to target the body. I think that's what Murata's going to do. He's going to look to try and just overwhelm Triple G early on, work with volume, set up the right hand, or at least try to land the right hand and try and see if he can get a reaction out of Triple G, and then set up shots to the body. Try and make Triple G work at a pace that's uncomfy for him. Triple G's never really had issues with stamina. I've never seen him really blow. But at the end of the day, as I said, he's 40 years old, 40-year-old legs, maybe having a hard weight cut. If you want to make Triple G fight when he doesn't want to fight, it might actually benefit you, if you get me. So you're making him work when he doesn't want to be working. He's maybe thinking, I need to conserve strength, but this guy's punching, I got to punch with him, otherwise I'm getting outworked here. Something like that may potentially happen. It really does all depend. It could be a case of both guys' timing is completely off early on, because they've both been out of the ring for a while, so we could be seeing shots going all over the place. It really kind of is we're going to be probably learning as we do, as we go along with the fight, as the fighters do. I think Triple G, after a while, will establish his jab. And I think, as I said, he'll probably feel that maybe Murata isn't the puncher that his record suggests, because he has quite a good KO ratio. And I think we'll see him start to come on strong. I think he will then eventually find a home for his shots, his right hands, his left hooks, his body shots on Murata. I think Triple G is going to win this fight by late stoppage. Possibly to the body. Possibly to the body. I actually don't think we're seeing a full 12 rounder. I think we're going to see a stoppage. I think Triple G is going to stop Murata. And I think that even if it did go to decision, as loved as Murata is in Japan, and as biased as I'm sure the crowd's going to be, because they're going to be just cheering their band on, at the end of the day, the zone, no, Triple G has to get this out of the way, and it's Canelo. If Canelo gets Bivol out of the way in September, they want that fight. They have wanted that trilogy fight for years. Since Canelo joined the platform, Triple G, Canelo 3, Canelo, Triple G 3. That's what they've wanted. The zone in the back of their minds will be saying, we want Triple G to win this fight. So even though it's in Japan, even though it's in Murata's home territory where he's loved, we want our guy to win this fight. Because we've got a big fight lined up and we're losing a lot of money, and that fight's going to make us money. So the hell with you and your title, our guy's winning. That could potentially happen. Don't underestimate that. Having said that, I think Triple G is going to win this fight legitimately. I think he's gonna find a range with his jab. I think he's going to look to set up body shots, and I think at some stage he's just going to look to say, right, this guy doesn't hit too hard. I'm just going to say, the hell with it. If I take some shots on the chin, I'm going to let it be. I'm going to get my work off. As I said, Murata's best plan of success, overwhelm Triple G. He can get overwhelmed in there, especially, if he's kind of, maybe not buzzed, but especially if you're working on him, he just tends to let you work. It'd be a really good idea if you could do that and get out of dodge quick as you can. So it's to not let him punch with you if he gets a chance, or if he gets a sniff to set up his shots, and work the body of Triple G. 40-year-old, cutting the weight, vulnerable to the body potentially, go and work that body. And that's what I'd look to do if I was in Murata's corner. Long-winded video, but long and the short of it is, my pick for this fight, late stoppage, rounds 10 to 12, Triple G. That's what I'm going with. I really think anything can happen in this fight, though. I really do. I think anything can happen because, again, we just don't know. Murata's not fought since 2019. Triple G's not fought since 2020. It's April 2022. So it's like, God knows what's going to happen. Really do. God knows what's going to happen. I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. We're very interested to know what your thoughts are on this fight. Who you think is going to win. What you think is going to happen. How you see this fight playing out. Please do feel free to leave it on in the comment section below. I will leave you with that. Let me know your thoughts. If we do a watch along on Saturday, I will double check the times. We may look at about 11ish. If it's 12 or half 12, it might get pushed back. We'll look at about 11:30 if we do a watch along. Okay, so for now I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoy it. Smash the like button if you could. I'll talk to these people. Peace.